Level design is a very challenging topic, and it's one that we're seeing more people having a chance to try on their own, be it thanks to the rise of the Kaizo scene, Mario Maker, and even just more people getting into indie game development. But nevertheless, it can be very hard to get started with building a level. And for today, we're going to be taking a look at essentially 4 important lessons or elements to keep track of that are the basis for good level design. This is based on a post that I made that will be going up somewhere above me at any second now. But the first point is that difficulty does not always correspond to greatness. There are many games out there that are built on challenging game design, but challenging is not the same as just pure hard or pure difficulty. If I wanted to, I could design a 10-minute Mario Maker level that is all about running through like this much of a space of spikes that if you miss at any point, you have to restart the whole level. Oh, and by the way, you have 90 seconds to do it. Now that would be a very hard level, but raise your hand right now if you would want to play an entire game built on levels like that. Challenging games like Spelunky, Dark Souls, Super Meat Boy, and so on have succeeded in spite of their difficulty by providing a measured challenge. That the game gives you everything you need to succeed and asks you to rise to that occasion with unique and original levels. For those of you who watch many of the popular Mario Maker players, such as Dode, Carl Sagan, Grand Poo, Yashi, gosh, I always forget his name, and I apologize if he's watching this right now, that they will play all manner of crazy levels in Mario Maker, and a popular term that has been coined is hot garbage to define levels that are just a colossal mess. I know there are many people who have sworn off of doing new Super Mario Bros. Speedruns for that very reason, where it's not about challenge, it's just, let's just throw how many difficult and cheesy tactics we can at the player and see if they either will play through it or quit. And trying to balance all that around is a major part of the next point. And that is that a good level needs a theme. There has to be a mission statement or a reason to play and design this level, and if you can't think of it, then you don't have a level or even by extension a video game. If you look at some of the very best Mario Maker levels or even just the very best levels in game design, they are all built on a singular vision, something that they want the player to either do, test, or even just try to convey a specific emotion. And you can have themes be as simple as just literally, I want the player to be jumping on platforms that spin around. Or you go as complicated as saying, I want a level where the entire level is inspired by the Nutcracker soundtrack, or anything else you can think of. But the point is that whatever your theme is, that is it. You want to keep things as razor focused as possible. Many bad levels that we see in games try to do everything. I'm going to have a 5-minute stealth section, 3 minutes of hardcore action, 4 minutes of intense platforming, and we'll also throw in some random puzzle solving all throughout. It is ultimately better to have 4 short levels that are consistent in theme than one very big level that's split between 4 different sections. And with that said, the third point is that levels need to have a sense of flow to them. There has to be a period or that sensation of growing as you play through a good level. Just like a song, level design is built around a beginning, middle, and end. And you want the player to constantly feel like they are growing or changing over the course of that level. Now, for smaller level designs, such as with Super Meat Boy, a level can literally be 5 seconds long, and that's it. But those 5 seconds are going to be razor focused. If you're going for something larger, like a Mario level or a Sonic level, then you still want to keep things growing and changing. There should be a noticeable difference between the beginning of a level and the end of a level. And the player may not consciously recognize that, but this is the kind of design that really elevates levels beyond just being, 30 seconds of doing the same thing. some of the most popular Kaizo hacks or Mario mods that we've seen have been developers or fans really going the extra mile and designing original mechanics and challenges that you wouldn't see otherwise in a Mario game. And those levels will always have some challenging ending that will be represented or corresponding to the rest of the rest of the level itself. And with that said, the fourth and final point, then we'll get to some game footage, is that a good level knows when to end. And this is even by extension, we can take this to a game in general. But it's important to understand that every mechanic that you have in your game, or even just on an individual level, has a limited lifespan. You can't just take the same thing and repeat it for a 20-minute long level. Not only will that be boring, but the player will start to feel that you're just going through the motions. And it's important that the level should basically do everything that you've set out to do corresponding to your theme or mission statement, and then wrap up. And again, just like when it comes to YouTube videos such as this one, you want to keep on point. It doesn't matter if you have 10 minutes of greatness if it's sandwiched between 40 minutes of just boring, nonsensical content. And again, this is why the very best levels, and even like the crazy Kaizo games like I Want to Be the Guy and so on, still keep things relatively short. It's very hard and very challenging, but it's rare that you're going to see them repeat the exact same content or the exact same challenge, unless obviously we're talking about a boss rush. Now with that said, we're going to load some footage of Megaman 11, and where I'm kind of having a hard time of putting down my feelings as to whether this is a good game or just a very average or plain one. And now a quick shout out to the supporters over on patreon.com/GWBicer. Now when it comes to Mega Man 11, this is obviously the 11th game in the main Mega Man franchise. And Mega Man, from a level design standpoint, has always been very interesting in terms of taking whatever theme or challenge of the boss and putting that into the level itself. Be it with challenges such as Woodman, the electrical plant of Lightman in Mega Man 4, and I'm sure we can think of many more examples. But with Mega Man 11, I found the levels just didn't really do all that much for me. In terms of the theme, each level has a unique environmental obstacle or hazard, but it's not really fully represented. There are a few sections of each level that will do that, but otherwise it's just straight platforming. Now right now you're looking at stage 1 of Dr. Wily, and the Dr. Wily levels have always been the culmination of all the challenges up to that point. But even with this level, again, we're not really seeing all that much. What you're watching right now with the gears, or slowing things down to jump around them, this is it in terms of the main mechanic or challenge of this level, and nothing else is really done along with this. Now, with Mega Man 11, the difficulty seems to be somewhat inconsistent, and I think part of that has to do with the speed gear integration. That's when you see everything slow down for a few seconds at a time. Now right here I'm trying to get past this turret, and then I decided to screw it and use the power gear. But the speed gear has become such an essential part of balance when it comes to Mega Man 11 that the entire game, in terms of its level design and challenge, is basically tethered to it. And you'll see this in the next few seconds as we go forward. Now here is another mainstay of Mega Man's design, that's the disappearing platform challenge. But this was also repeated in, or this was originally put in Tundra Man's level, with it being repeated here. Now, the problem that I have with Mega Man 11's design is that the levels themselves don't really have that good sense of flow to them. Because things are being repeated, maybe just with a slight variation, it doesn't feel all that different from beginning to middle to end. Now, we just had a section a few seconds ago where I was fighting these annoying turrets. So again, it's being repeated. Now, when it comes to Mega Man, there's always been that challenge of knowing just how far you want to take these designs and the challenge. And you have to be really careful. If you go too far without properly balancing the game, the player's just going to be hit very hard and not sure how to grow. If it doesn't go far enough, then it just feels like I'm repeating the same thing. Now, this section is actually a lot more interesting on the harder difficulty when you can't just refill Rush. But the solution is just basically, once again, speed gear. And when your entire challenge is built on just a singular solution, it just doesn't work out. Now, this part, I am going to die. And this is kind of a very annoying section, because this is actually not done at any other point from what I remember. And again, it's just one little section that it kind of feels out of place. In previous Mega Man games, the infamous drop down a quarter of spikes is done as kind of a multiple theme or multiple sections in a single level. But here, it just doesn't work. And I'm not sure how things just got restarted there. Maybe I just did something wrong. But I'm going to fast forward a bit here. I think maybe my mouse screwed up. But let me fast forward, and I'll show off the boss here. Now, bosses, of course, are always the capper to these levels, and actually, I'm going to fast forward one more time, because I'm going to let you guys see the second level of Dr. Wily, and we'll be able to point out things here. Pay no attention to that little achievement window. Now, this level references Blockman's stage, with how those sections are, and this is one part, again, kind of combining some of these various enemies and themes. But it never goes beyond kind of the surface layer. This part is reminiscent of Torchman's stage. But again, nothing is really being done that we haven't seen already. It's just simply a remix without trying to elevate things. One thing I'm kind of surprised is that we don't see a vertical version of Torchman's chase design. There is a part coming up that has that. I believe it will be, I don't think we're going to see it in this video. But again, it's so short and it doesn't really stick in your memory. And again, going back to the first part of this video, and we'll begin to wrap things up here, a great level has that consistency in terms of a theme, and when it is fully approached or fully explored, it gives a level that sense of memory. How many people remember the first time they did a water level in Super Mario Bros., or even many of the older Mega Man games in terms of their level designs? I mentioned or I referenced Mega Man 2 earlier in this section, and that is considered to be one of the most popular games in the Mega Man franchise due to its great level design. But with this game, again, I just feel like I'm going through the motions. And part of it, again, has to do with the requirement of the speed gear, and otherwise it's just repeating various elements without taking things further. But with that said, we're going to wrap things up for today's critical thought. For those of you watching this, can you think of games that did a really great job in terms of level design? And to make things more interesting, can you think of from the 2D variety as well as from the 3D space? Because 3D has its own challenges, and that could be its own video. But thank you so much for watching. Check back for daily discussions on game design here, and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel linked down below, where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.